Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't know what time it is where you are, but right now it is time for more insight. This is Insight You Can Trust because there is more where it came from. I'm your host, Chris Moore. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, do all those things, man. We're just trying to grow this channel. But I'm also trying to bring you some stories that you can identify with, some that you can relate to, some that's going to make you feel something, some that it may make you cry, it may make you happy, it may make you feel inspired. But all in all, we just want you to feel something. That's what more insight is for. Today with me, y'all, I have a super agent in the building, up and coming rising star in the business. Paul Duracell. Paul Duracell is in the building. How you doing today, my man?
Good, man. Appreciate you having me today. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just told you that I found you on YouTube. I was looking at some clips, and I said, hey, I got to talk to this guy. I don't even want to just start a conversation in the messages. I just want to have a conversation with them on air. And I feel like that's the most organic way to do it. So before we even get into anything, man, I got to ask you this phase, this chapter in your life, if it could be named any movie, this is your movie, you come up with the title. What would this chapter of your life be called?
No, that's a good question. You coming out the gate swinging, huh?
Hey, man, that's what I do, man.
I can tell you this. I think the chapter where I'm at right now will be called Intention. I say that the title of the story at this point will be Faith, Failure, Football, but the chapter I'm in right now is Intention. And I say that just because, sometimes you can just arbitrarily be doing things. I want to be very intentional in how I'm moving, both with my career, professionally, spiritually, everything I'm doing right now, I want to be doing it with intention and purpose. So that's the title. That's what we in right now. Sure.
Hey, man, I love that. I love that you said that. But it also brings me back to, I'm not going to start from the beginning because we already know, like, hey, you're super aged. I don't want to ask you those questions about how'd you get started in this, but I do want to know the impact that Louisiana had on your uprising. What did Louisiana do for you to shape who you are as a man today?
I mean, that's the crib, man. That's where I grew up. I think, irrespective of where you grew up, there's certain elements of your personality that you're gonna take from where you're from. So I'm from Louisiana, but I want to be a little bit more specific. Eunice, Louisiana, 337, that area code, near Opelousas, Lafayette, Jennings, that area of the world is where I'm from. And I say that, I was shaped by where I grew up. It's the kind of place where maybe 13,000 people. Everybody there to this day probably still call me Lil Paul. My parents were educators. Some of my greatest influences in life were, my school teachers, my pastors, the neighborhood football players, even some people who society might view as that they didn't accomplish what they should have. Some of those people were my greatest influence because that's where some of my greatest advice came from. Maybe people who didn't go on and do some of the greatest things as far as, make some of the best decisions, but it was just a place that it was like everybody kind of knew everybody held everybody accountable. And you saw people that pushed you and just strived you, and it created that level of humility. Of course, when you're from a place that, we barely just got a Burger King and a Whataburger,
yeah,
you're not going to be super materialistic, but you're humble, but you know that you can dream bigger because you've watched people from where you're from either stay in Eunice and do great things, leave Eunice and do great things, or leave Eunice and come back to Eunice and give great things despite not living in Eunice. So the bar was set pretty high for me, and at a very young age, being from where I'm from, and I like to think that doing my best to try to make those people back home proud for sure.
Man, I know they're proud of you. I'm gonna talk on these three topics. I'm gonna ask you a question for each one. You mentioned faith, failure, football. As it regards to your faith, how does your faith show up when you're talking to different clients, you're doing negotiations, or even when you're a man of God? I'm pretty sure you've prayed with your clients before. So how does your faith show up for you?
They always say that the best sermon is a great example. So, the first thing I try to do is try to live right and make the correct decision. My clients, I set an example. If I'm at one of my clients' games somewhere in Tennessee they know I'm going to church before the game. They see that. So instead of me trying to, I'm the type of person I'm going to lead by example, and I'll subtly bring it up like, hey, bro, I'm going to Bible study Wednesday. Do you want to come with me? Yo, I'm teaching summer vacation Bible school. Do you want to come with me? I think I try to set that example first and foremost, as opposed to just being this rah guy. Everything is a Bible verse. Anytime they make a mistake, I'm on them and yo, this isn't in accordance with 2 Corinthians. I try to give them that level of grace. And because we haven't, everybody has an individual walk with Christ. My journey, and that's the thing about our walk with God, nobody's is the same. And, I didn't get more into church until later in life. I went through periods when I'm in law school, I'm doing these things, I'm not even going to church. So who am I to condemn somebody for what they don't do? All I can do is set that example, pre-game, sending them a Bible verse, sending some text when they're dealing with something. I have one of my clients was dealing with something the other day and he's getting heavy in the word. And I say, hey, bro, a faith that a faith that hasn't been tested can't be trusted. So what you're dealing with right now is being tested. It gets harder. It's kind of like when you're working out. And I do a good job of, making those analogies. I'm like, when you first back in the gym, it's going to hurt. Those muscles going to burn. But you're building. And as you're building, sometimes it's painful. Sometimes you're sore. Sometimes you don't want to wake up and do it. So I think I just try to move and be consistent, pick my spots, and also, first and foremost, just be transparent. I think they know, I went to HBCU. Half the stuff you own, I done been on. Some of the things you're trying to overcome, I've had to fight through. So I think that's how I'm moving with my clients. And I think also just when there's disagreement with me in the front office or when, because sometimes there's going to be discord in this business. I think you can still do your job effectively long as it's grounded in and it's coming from a space of love. And love doesn't mean you won't have disputes, don't mean you won't be conflict, but it all comes back to, look, these people trying to do their job, I'm trying to do my job. At the end of the day, at the very end of the day, we might be on opposite sides of the fence when it comes to negotiation, but when it comes to, who our maker is, who we serve, I mean, come on, man, we can figure it out.
Oh, for sure. I love that you talked about grace, because grace is something that everyone wants, but everyone doesn't want to extend it. There's so many people who, they shout on the rooftops, this person shouldn't be doing this. But I love what you also said is that who am I to condemn you? Like, there's so much there, man. There's so much there.
No, I think I agree with you, man. I think you have to learn to give people grace, man. I think our stories, I'm very big on that because, I'm no bigger than anybody else. We all got our shortcomings. We all got frailties. We all got our insecurities. Just gotta love people through it, man.
There you go. That's about our faith. Let me get on failure. Tell me about a failure that nearly took you out, because clearly you're here. So even on your worst day, you've survived it. So tell me what was a failure moment for you and how you overcame that.
Actually, probably one of my biggest failures probably happened early on in my agent career where, I wasn't able to retain one of my bigger players and, losing them to another agency. And, you don't, obviously it comes with the business, but it still hurts when it happens. And, that in that position, in that situation when it happened, I didn't have many clients. I didn't have, nobody knew who I was in this business. So it was enough that if I wouldn't have kept pushing, it was enough to have knocked me out. I could have got knocked out of this business maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And it's humbling. But at the end of the day, like I said, God gives you a vision for your life, and he never says it's going to be easy. We draw it up the way we think we're going to draw it up, right? Like, oh, you're going to sign this client, you're going to do the $100 million deal. We have in our mind what we think, how we think it's going to go, in accordance with our plan and what we want. So I think at that point, failing, it's just a reminder that things are going to happen in accordance to God's timing and what God will has for your life. And you can do whatever you want to try to expedite the process or, try to take things in your own hands. But what God has for you is going to happen His timing. You just have to keep showing up and doing the work. And I think being able to come back from that while, also dealing with, my daughter moving away and not being able to see my daughter every day is like sometimes when bad things happen, very seldomly do they happen isolated. It's often like a snowball. It's bam, 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 bam.
Yep.
You know, like you, so your car done broke, you lost a job. So I think, but it's in those dark moments when you have felt where your faith is really trusted. And once God has carried you out of those dark spaces, I think it creates a different relationship with God because you realize
Absolutely.
that despite you might be angry at him when you're going through it, you may feel like he's forsaking you or God, why me? I think the failure breeds gratitude because ultimately you're going to come out of it. And it's not often that you look at like, well, I failed this. What did you learn from this failure?
There
How
you
did
go.
you grow? So all of those things that have happened, I realized that yes, we call it failure, but I think at the end of the day, it's just you're really strengthening. You're building up you're building your faith. You're building those Christian muscles.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't have said it better. Uh, and then we mentioned football. How do you see football differently being on the side that you're on? You're not on the field. You're off the field. So how do you see football differently from your players?
I say it all the time, and I'm grateful first and foremost. Like, I'm grateful because of what this game. Like without the game of football and these guys putting their bodies on the line, putting not just their bodies, their mind, everything that they're putting on the line, I wouldn't even have an opportunity. So I look at football as a conduit to young men being able to pursue their dreams and provide for their families both in the short term and the long term if they do this thing correct. So I look at football as a gift. God is giving you this ability, but you have to put in the work. And there's so many levels, right? To get through high school, to get through college, ultimately to get to the National Football League, to stay healthy. I always teach the guys that this is a privilege. And, you got these billionaire owners that they have to trust you. These coaches, it's about building trust. It's about doing the right things on and off the field. So it's an avenue, man. And it's an opportunity a lot of times for kids. Some kids who grew up in good parent in two-parent homes, an opportunity for them to build on what their parents have provided and take it a step further. Some kids, it's an opportunity, bro. Like their signing bonus is the most money anybody in their family will see or has ever seen. So it's about respecting that game, appreciating the game, and advancing that game, and giving everything you got because it's a short. You're in the league for a finite amount of time, but the impact that that game can have for you, it's a lifeline. You want to sit in those meetings with these business owners. Everything that this game offers, you want to, when you've retired, you want to say, I've exhausted. I've explored every opportunity I could off the field because of what football gave me. So I say, just look at it for what the opportunity that is given. But you just same way the game is going to use you, like with your body, and you
Use
you
it.
use the game too. It's a two-way street. You shouldn't misuse the game, but you should definitely use it for your benefit. Let's say you're a kid that signed with a team in Tampa. Learn what's going on in that community. Who are the power players in that community? What did they do? How did they get their money? Oh, I met this guy who works at this car dealership. Well, maybe instead of asking for a free car, I maybe want to have my own dealership one day. How does he do payroll? How does he do
Yeah.
this? Like football can be the ultimate conduit to doing so many things, and it also gives you a platform. Case in point, let's say you're a football player and you have strong faith in God. Now you have all these followers you wouldn't have had. Now you can spread that message. You can spread whatever that message is. If that's a Christ-centered message, you spread that. If you care about single mothers, if you care, like football gives you an opportunity to champion a cause. And whether fair or not, people tend to be influenced by those people who are out there on the field. And to whom much is given, much is required.
Two people off the top of my brain that come to mind would be Ward Dunn with the Falcons. How he essentially builds homes for single parents or single mothers
Sure.
with big families. I think
Louisiana
about
guy, by the way. Louisiana guy.
Yes. I think about Charles Woodson as well. He went from playing to now having a piece of the Cleveland Browns. So football can, like you said, be that conduit to your generational wealth, your generational. It, it can stop generational curses for that matter.
For sure. for sure. You look at DeMario Davis. There's a lot of players out there
Absolutely.
that really use their platform to advocate and promote God and His word.
Now I know I'm an older guy. I think I'm called an up now. I'm 39. Well, I'll be 39 later on this month. So it's a different generation that you're dealing with than what I grew up under. So there's different learning mechanisms. There's different emotions that's going on now. So how do you make sure your athletes stay grounded, still, applying what their needs are, but still applying the old school principles, those foundations that we grew up on?
I think that's a good question. I think it starts at home. A lot of these kids have had good home training, for the most part. I mean, the foundation is there. Now, granted, you go to college, sometimes we all deviate from the principles that we were taught, but the lessons, generally, most of the guys that I represent, they have a good foundation. So sometimes as an agent, you're just reiterating that. You're checking in. You're making sure that their mental health is okay. You're making sure that they're not getting caught into the evils of comparison, overindulging. You meet people where you are, and I embrace being a fellow unk. You meet people where they are. You still have those conversations where you can relate, but there are times as an agent where you do have to step in and you have to be that voice. You have to be that moral authority. You have to be that person that maybe sometimes tells them things that they don't want to hear. And that's okay because, part of being an agent is being a person that you can trust. And I think as you build that trust, and like I said earlier, when they see the example and they see the way that you're living, they look at you a little differently. And it's like you want to be held in high esteem by your clients. And I think it's consistent communication and also meeting them and communicating with how they best communicate. Sometimes you never know. Like we could be talking about rap music or we can be talking about this new young boy and I could slide something in that conversation about something that I noticed in Bible study. So sometimes it'll happen organically where, a guy's having issues with something with retaining a playbook. This and you like, hey man, you got to understand that, you're going to be challenged in this. This is what you signed up for. Like you only facing what other men have met. And I enjoy that aspect of being an agent, like to get to be a big bro.
Yeah.
It reminds me of some of the conversations I've had with some of my younger fraternity brothers, right? It's no different. Those younger guys look up to you and, you're able to give sound advice and being consistent, and I enjoy it.
Absolutely, man. I got a few more questions for you and we'll get you out of here. I'm looking at your hat. What is that mindset?
The mindset isn't that I don't have teammates because I got a great team and great people around me. I think the versus everybody mindset is that you believe in yourself and who you are and what you stand for and your character and your consistency and your competency and like you're very cognizant of who you are in this business and you put yourself up against anybody in this business. So it's versus everybody. I'm not one to be afraid of, this agent or worry about what anybody else is doing. It's about me. So it's maybe it's just a versus himself, but the versus everybody mindset is that I'm not tripping. I'm never going to back down from a fight. I'm from Eunice, Louisiana. I'm never worried about anything. So it's versus everybody. And that, includes people who maybe don't believe in you, people who do believe in you, people who are, monitoring spirits. It's versus everything. Basically, it's versus any and everybody that's trying to disrupt what you got going on. And I think we all gonna have those moments in life where you got to go to that dark place, and there isn't anybody to pull you up but yourself. So there's gonna be those moments, and in those moments you got to challenge it. You got to show that you are who you say you are, and God ain't gonna let you fall.
Paul, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. One of the things that stuck out to me was your tone, your delivery. How does it feel to be your authentic self? Because you're going into rooms where people don't normally look like us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a few of them scattered out there, but they don't look and sound like you or me. So how does it feel for you to go in and be your authentic self? Be your authentic self and get these deals done and do your job to the highest level that you're doing it.
I think that comes from that level of confidence that you know that God made you who you are. So if I'm around here trying to be somebody else or fit into somebody else's narrative, that's an insult to God, right? We one of one. So I've grown into being the best version of myself. Like you said, it's one thing to be yourself, but yourself ain't always your best self.
It can be your representative.
That comes, I'm able to be authentically myself because I've done the work in order to walk into a room myself. So when I come into a room, you understand that I've graduated law school magna cum laude. In them dark nights, so you're not gonna play with me like I'm a street agent.
Yeah.
I've worked at a top 5 law firm in the world. So the acumen is there. And I'm not going to say it's code switching or be myself, but there's so many elements of me. There's that kid that grew up in Southwest Louisiana, and my godmother gave me some of her income tax money to help me go back to school.
Man.
Who grew up next to, hooping at the park, but I played tennis with the boys from the country club. So all of these, I went to an HBCU, but I was the only American on my tennis team. So what I'm saying is that I'm able to be my true authentic self because you're seeing every facet, every element, every part of me, and I'm comfortable in it. And I think that people recognize authenticity because you constantly show up as yourself. If you're showing up as somebody else, you got to remember, like, well, dang, what voice I use this time? What did, nah, it's like, I'm going to pull up. I'm going to be myself. I'm confident in who God made me. I'm confident in the abilities that He's given me. I'm confident in the work that I put in. But I'm also super, super humble and always thankful and grateful. And I think that's the balance that you have to find in this business. Because if you're too humble, they're going to walk over you. If you don't walk into a room and project any level of confidence, you're going to get ran through. But also, you don't want to be unnecessarily brash and arrogant and fall into, a caricature of what people feel an agent should be. I'm going to be the type of agent I want to be. If I want to pull up with the Cuban on your show today, that's what it's going to be.
That's what it's going to be.
But if I need to pull up in a suit,
that's what it's going to be.
We need to talk about Article 46 of the CBA, Article 23. We can do that too. We can do this one or two ways. It's however you want to go about it.
Man, I love it, Paul. I love it, man. Even speaking to that business acumen, man, let me deviate. Let me go this route. What's one of the biggest misconceptions that you experience as a sports agent?
I think sometimes like people will assume that like you just using an athlete, like they're just a number to you, or they're just a percentage, or that like you ain't never played sports, so you're just trying to be associated with the game. Like, nah, I'm a ball player first and foremost. I play sports. I love sports. I know sports. And the second is like, I'm never gonna try to use none of my players. I got players that are Pro Bowlers. I got players that are undrafted free agents, and you love them all the same, and you work just as hard for them. So I think I want to always, for me, that misconception, none of my players are numbers to me. They my family. They're guys that I'm gonna go to their weddings. They're guys I'm gonna text them, tap in with them, whether it's good news or bad news. It's like I'm not just an agent. I'm not. It's like in basketball. I'm not gonna play one position. I'm a friend. I'm a confidant. I'm a brother. I'm gonna do all of that, and that matters. That matters to me, because my purpose is bigger than just being an agent. That's just my description.
You don't have to give me the player, but is there one conversation with an athlete that you've had that you saw the change from how they used to be to who they are now?
For sure. I think I had a conversation with one of my younger guys, and we just had a conversation about what do you want in this game? Because everybody, some people want what the game can bring to them, but like, do you really love ball? And are you willing to do the little things, the hard things, the mundane things? Because I'm like, you told me you wanted to be special. Yeah. So there's a difference between good and great. And it's just having those conversations about growing up and what's expected of you each chapter. And like I said, it always comes from a space of grace with me, but you can see that change. And I wouldn't say it was just because of a conversation I had. It's also, it takes a village. Sure. It's trusted advisors, family. Maybe I played a small piece in that, but you could definitely see those changes. I've had conversations with players who, needed relationship advice. And I'm able to talk to them from that lens because I've seen everything. So I enjoy those type of conversations, and the changes don't happen overnight, man. It's about consistent messaging. It's about consistent messaging, and I think people don't care about what you know till they know that you care. So some players are more receptive to what you say because maybe you got to be right about a few things, and maybe they got to hit their head a few times.
Yeah.
But you keep them loving them, and you don't see. I told you. You know, sometimes that switch doesn't flip until year 3, till year 4, till they've been through something. But you just keep showing up for them, man. You don't give up on me. Think about it. If my mama would have given up on me, I wouldn't be a lawyer. I wouldn't be an agent. You know, so you gotta sometimes be able to see people. I think God has given me ability sometimes to see people's potential in them that they can't necessarily see in themselves.
Man, that's a gift.
And that's a gift. I've had plenty of homeboys to this day. One of my best friends in the world, he getting his PhD in December. And there's a Facebook message from 13 years ago where I'm telling him like, yeah, that's cool, bro, but I need that doctor. Yeah. I'm not saying, and mind you, I'm not taking any credit for it, but
no, for sure.
I believe that. And I've had people who are my friends that have been pushing me. And when I was an agent with no clients, like, you the one. Maybe they saw something in me that I haven't seen. So God gives us all gifts, and he surrounds people with us who sometimes can see things that we can't see.
It makes me think, and it further confirms for me that God legit makes no mistakes. He doesn't, everything happens for a reason. There was a reason why I came across your clips. There's a reason why I came across your IG profile. There's a reason why this connection even happened, and you're reaffirming so much for me. And I want to ask you, could you imagine, take yourself back to 16 years old, the person that you were at 16, could you see yourself doing what you're doing now?
At 16, listen, 11th grade, I was playing tennis. At that point, I knew I was going to Southern. Mm-hmm. I mean, man, I had an idea that it could be possible, but it seemed improbable. Just because of the steps I would have had to take. You know, I didn't know at 16 that I'd be interning at Nike, or that, you know, I'd go to law school. And I kind of had an idea what I wanted my life to look like. But if we're being honest, I couldn't have foreseen this, bro. I couldn't have foreseen CBS appearances, ESPN, some of the things that happened. No, I'll be honest with you. You know, you have that confidence that you think it could happen. Yes, I did think that maybe there's a chance, but nah, bro. I had a vision that maybe I'd be doing something like this, but nah, bro. I feel like I've exceeded my own expectation at this point, being honest. My mama probably not gonna like that answer, but it's a real answer.
And I know with us as Black men, we don't take a lot of time to do this, but do you ever stop and smell the roses and appreciate the moment that you're in? Because we're so wired to be like, okay, what's next? I got to be in grind mode. I got to stay in hustle mode. Do you ever take a time to just chill and just like take it all in?
I have. And I've recently started to do more of that because, you know, and it gets me emotional. And I was at a football game on the sideline, and it was like Buffalo versus the Ravens, and like I'm sitting there like my client playing in the biggest game. He's a kid from we from the same area, and I'm like, I'm looking around, I'm on the sideline, but I'm like, yo, and I cried, and I had tears. I do sometimes. I try not to live in that space, but I try to be grateful enough to where I reflect on what I've been through and how much I have to be thankful for. And you're right, bro. As Black men, we score 40 points next game, we're conditioned. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because being forward thinking stops you from you can be to the point where you're so nostalgic, or you so caught up in, oh, I did $104 million 2 years ago, bro. That's cool. Everybody want to talk about it, but I don't want to be I don't want to be a one-hit wonder. I want to keep this thing running. But there is a balance. You have to be proud of yourself, man, because your journey, part of the journey, we get so caught up in the destination. It's like, what's the book, The Alchemist? Your whole journey is shaping who you are. And there's not a day, at some point every day, I express gratitude.
Yeah.
Every single, I think when,
Absolutely.
In praying every night is one of the first things I'm going to say is, before I ask you for anything, God, I want to thank you for everything. So I am thankful, bro. Like, I'm a little kid from Eunice, Louisiana, talking to you on a podcast. And I think people see that gratitude. Keon and I, we were at this Nike shoot in Oregon. And, I interned at Nike. And I'm just like, yo, damn. And I snap out of it. But those moments, man, it's a beautiful thing because not only are you thinking about what you've done to get there, but you think about how many times God has positioned you. But you also think about how many sacrifices your parents have made for you. Your parents, your lady, all these people who are in your life that, everybody who's made a sacrifice for you along the way. You're really a product of a lot of prayers when you think about it, bro. You don't know how many times people have prayed for you being in this moment right now. And I'm blessed. And you also don't know how many of those prayers overrode people praying against what you got.
That part.
Somebody had to win.
Yeah. And we all know who's the Almighty. And he's going to win every single time.
Every time.
Let me ask you this. How do you protect your peace when your job is to solve everyone else's problems? How do you protect your peace?
Prayer first and foremost, right? Because you can get so caught up being an empath, which I am, that you take on everybody else's problems and it trickles over into your normal life. So it's about prayer, and it's really about having to draw that line in the sand and how you talk to yourself through those affirmations. Like, yes, your job, you're charged with being an agent and solving other people's problems, but you still have to find that peace and figure out what's going on with yourself. Your peace could come in your children, your significant other, your safe space. Like, I got a group message with my cousin in my bed where I can go and vent. I'm not the agent Paul. I'm just Lil Paul. I can go back to my mama crib in Eunice and, and vent and talk to my mom, or people not asking you for nothing. They just want to see you, and those safe spaces comes from the relationships you forge, man, whether that's, that's important. So I think I'm doing a better job of drawing those lines between the two. There's my life here, there's where it intersects with my client, then there's where I got to keep some space for myself that's personal for what I got going on.
Man, I'm glad you said that. I definitely need to make a trip back home. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Southwest Atlanta to be exact, SWAT. Sure. So I definitely understand what it means to go back home. And man, when you go back and you just feel that love, man, it's so refreshing. It just does so much for me. So yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Good stuff. I want to transition. I have a segment called 3 on 3. I have 3 questions for you. You give me 3 answers, and we'll go from there. The first question: you are from Edison, Louisiana. So Eunice. I'm sorry. Where did I get Edison from?
Thomas Edison invented the light bulb.
Hey, the light bulb just went off, so I appreciate it. Eunice, Louisiana. I need your 3 favorite Louisiana meals.
That's a good one. Okay. Boiled crawfish for sure.
Oh, yeah.
That's 1. It would be 1, 2, and 3, like on die-line, but boiled crawfish for sure. Gumbo. Okay. The right gumbo, though. Like, not that gumbo with all the okra in it, like that. 337.
Gumbo with the crab legs in there, right?
That's what I'm talking about, bro. Yeah. Crab, shrimp, the turkey neck, everything. I need it. And then thirdly, you ain't gonna know what this is, bro, but it's called a sauce piquant. Like, Louisiana's like, the different smoked meats in a gravy. You can make it in a brown gravy or a red gravy. Chef kiss, man. So, like, it'll probably be cooked on a black pot, and people will call it by a short name. They're like, such and such cooking the sauce.
Oh,
rice and gravy, bro. Just might have hen in it, might throw some root. And look, I done got good at cooking it too. And there's gonna be some people in the comments laughing, but I've been in the lab cooking, bro. I've been getting better. I make a mean sauce.
I love me some Louisiana food, and I had never heard of that. So even up here in Memphis, we got a spot. I'm always in there getting that etouffee.
Etouffee tough too.
Man, I love some of that etouffee. Of course, gumbo, like you said. I prefer to have the crab legs in there. So yeah, I love me some good Louisiana dishes, man.
I'm gonna tell you something though. Like, I did something with the etouffee I made a while back. I put some shrimp and crawfish in it together, but I did a little like lump crab meat. Come on, man. Chef Kiss. Hey,
Legit, man. Oh, okay. I know that you at one point in time were in the choir. I don't know if you're in the choir anymore. There we go. All right, so I can ask this question. Give me your top 3 gospel songs.
oh man, I bet. That's a good question. Hold on. I gotta see.
It don't even have to be of all time.
Greg,
It could be based
no,
on
no.
what you're feeling now.
All right, bet. So if I tell it to you and you know it, you gonna sing it?
No.
All right, bet. It's a song by Fred Hammond.
Okay.
Called "Take My Hand."
I do know that song.
Precious Lord, take my hand. Slide.
You know that
Effortless. Praise him in advance.
Oh, that's a good one. That's Marvin Sapp.
I started singing. That one. Then after that, it's called "Smoking Doorbell Praise is What I Do." It's tough.
Your church in Atlanta, yeah.
Kirk Franklin, he's able. Man, it's tough after that. Every time I turn around, the Lord keeps blessing me.
That's a good one.
One of my jams. Man, that's tough. I can't name just 3, but there's Even Me. It's a lot, bro. Even
I agree.
Me, Lord. How Excellent. It's a lot, bro.
Ooh, how excellent. Yeah.
You know that part when they do. I know it. And then they slide on that too, bro.
Let me see if you know this one.
Hold on.
Told the storm.
I told the storm. Keep going.
It goes. Matter of fact,
Play it real
that's
quick.
what I told the storm. I can play this a little bit for you.
You got a piano?
Nah, I'm just pull it up on the
Oh,
phone.
I thought you about to play it on the piano.
I can't do nothing but play music. Bro, that one, bro, I done lost it in my car so many times listening to I Told the Storm.
That one and the song called I Trust in God.
Yeah.
My Savior, the one who will. By the time you get to Never Fail, when it's the part where you say, I sought the Lord and he heard and he answered. At this point, I don't even need to listen to that song while driving on the interstate.
Because it's a rap.
Bro, don't let me have a long day, or if I get to just go into a space like that song, Take My Hand, Precious Lord. Bro, I listen to that song, and maybe I'm a little obsessive. I listen to that song 17 times a day.
Bro,
everybody in the house sick of me.
I done been there. I played that I Told the Storm. Me and my wife, I remember vividly, we were listening to Future, and of course I had the playlist going. We turned up, but soon as they hit, bruh, it was a wrap. We had to pull over. We was just like, thank you, Lord.
That's about balance, though, man. You go from.
That's the beautiful thing about life. I'm glad that you said something about balance, because now I got to touch on this last one.
Go ahead, cuz.
I'm struggling between give me 3 of your favorite down south artists or 3 of your favorite Louisiana artists.
We ain't got to put this in a box. I'll say this. I grew up in Louisiana. So it's always No Limit, P and them, they going to always hold a special place in my heart. Because for one, it's some of the first rap CDs I wasn't supposed to have, but I had.
Same.
And you remember the album covers was crazy. They was real big, Silk the Shocker. I met Mia X before I was fanned out. My boy D1 did a song with her, I believe. I did some work with her. And so I say for sure the No Limit, Cash Money. And you really can't, Juvie, Wayne, Turk, BG.
You can't
the
separate.
Was, baby, what they did was so big for the culture. And, we were too young to realize that they were putting us on the national scale. Yeah. So when you talk about that Louisiana, can't not talk about my boy D1, who boy for boy, he's that guy. Yeah. So Wayne, obviously, Louisiana, mixtape Wayne.
Wayne.
Look at the life of Wayne. Insane, bro. Down south artists, obviously, yeah, bro. T.I., Outkast, all in Texas. You go to Texas, June 27th is a national holiday coming up in 25 days. Hey, the Texas teaches you I'm about to come down. It's never down, it's never up. It's Dine. Dine. So
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the down south music, but I can't really be limited to, that East Coast, Jay do it, the Nas.
All day, man. All day.
I really was a Mace fan growing up. People don't like Mace had the slow flow.
Listen,
Mace, you remember Mace had that song? Mace like, what the heck are you looking at me
Mace
for?
is highly
And I can't
underrated.
get money anymore. He had that.
Highly
He
underrated.
was kind of like a precursor to like Fabulous, if you think
Yeah.
about it. That
Yeah.
slow. I like
You
Mace.
don't like Big Sean.
Exactly. I like Big Sean.
I do like Big Sean.
Big
too.
Sean got a line, bro, on one of the song. That boy said, if I lose one, I bounce back like 2, 3 did with 4, 5. My goodness. Like, come on, man. Come on, bro.
That's my kind of lyrics.
Big Sean tough.
Oh, yeah.
See, but J. Cole is probably my favorite rapper. Not just because we look kind of alike. Cole is my guy. Obviously, Aubrey. Aubrey is one of them, man. Whatever people say,
Sure.
Aubrey is one of them, man.
When Aubrey Graham raps, he's one of the best to ever do it.
Yep.
When he
Sure.
raps.
I mean,
I don't really
because
care for the singing.
he got his moments like Underground Kings. Like he come on up. Like that's on him and Rick. It's times where you like, my goodness, bro.
I still go back to the first album.
Thank Me Later.
Thank Me Later. Houston, Atlanta, Vegas. I go back and listen to all those cuts.
For sure.
All
For
of them.
Yeah.
Man, I'm glad we on board with the music, man. We right there together.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. 5 years from now, where do you see yourself?
See myself, first and foremost, I see myself living in my purpose and further along on my spiritual journey, like even more so connected with God. I obviously pray that I continue to have success in this business, whether that's independently or, I've teamed up or made a super team or whatever that may be. I just want to continue to positively impact athletes and walk in my purpose, man. Hope to have written a book by then. Done a little bit more media. Continue to advance God's kingdom. I got a 13-year-old right now. Maybe a couple more kids. We'll see how that turns out. Maybe I have to hit you up for some marriage advice and all that type of stuff. But
yeah,
definitely could see that. That side of me, like being settled with a family, chilling, having younger agents doing a little bit more running than I'm running at that point. Going to sports games, enjoying, having a true family.
Man, I got a 3-year-old, so I can wait, but I can't wait for him to start playing sports. We play around with golf now. He's starting to get a little jump shot on him. He's throwing the football around a little bit.
Yeah.
Just exploring what's going to happen. I'm excited about it. Let me ask you this.
Beautiful.
When people mention your name years from now, when you walk in the rooms, what do you hope they say that you stood for? What do you hope they say about you?
I hope that they say I move with integrity, and I didn't let the business change me. I transcended the business. That, I showed up in every room authentically myself, impacted the next generation, did what I had to do for the HBCU culture, both just showing up, but also financially, that I was good to my family. I loved my clients, would have ran through a wall for them, and that they loved and respected me. And, I was kind of like a brother, uncle, dad to all of them.
Sure.
And that I showed that level of acumen, like those front office people and general managers, that they said, he showed up prepared. He did fair deals. He wasn't unnecessarily egregious. And then he knew his stuff. And that's all you can ask for, bro. Like when it's over, when they playing I Shall Wear a Crown and they carry me out.
Hey, don't do that to me, man.
Don't
do that to me.
The amount of money that you make, the amount of deals you did, that all is part of your story. But I think those are footnotes in your story. Those are like, when you read the Bible, that's the little explanations. That doesn't define you. I think what defines you is how much your kids loved you. What impact did you make on your community? Did you lead this world better than you found it? So many times we judge success by monetary things. You know, man, I didn't get that house I wanted. I didn't get that crib I wanted. I care more about my impact and the influence. And I feel like everything else is going to take care of yourself. Because if I'm living right, the blessing's going to flow, bro. That's going to happen. We ain't got to trip on that. That's the legacy, bro. That's the legacy that he did it the right way. He did it his way. He did it God's way, first and foremost. Let me say that. He did it God's way. But within doing things God's way, God gave him that confidence to stand on who he was.
Man.
You know? And in that business, he was himself. He ain't beef with no other agents. He ain't talk down on nobody else. I ain't got to say you not great to say that I'm the greatest. Like, he stood on that. He stood on that. I think, bro, I want him to say his story was improbable, but it was inevitable. That's what I want, dog. That's the bar I want. I hope maybe you'll tell it. Somebody gonna tell it, though.
Somebody gonna tell the story. Hey, if those who watch this, you're gonna have to ask him for his Cash App, because the man is dropping nuggets, he's dropping gems. It's only right that we take up an offering and make sure that we thank God for the word that has been brought forth today.
No need for that, man. I just hope that whatever they would have given me, they give to somebody they see on the corner, or they donate a book to a kid, or donate some cleats. It's never about me, man. I feel like God's giving me these gifts, but your gifts aren't for you. They're for the world, dog.
Exactly.
That's like what he said on Friday. It wasn't in his context, but he said, God made this for me and you. It's from the earth. You know, man. He gave me these gifts. And people like you, man, I want to thank you. Sometimes people come on these shows and you'll thank me. Thank you for watching, bro. Like, thank you for watching what you saw of me and thinking enough of me to come on your platform. Because you never know. Somebody who may have never heard of me, whether that's 33 views, 333 views, 92 views, somebody may have viewed this. They may want to look to me for business one day, or I might inspire them to go into business. Somebody got a word out of this. And if somebody got something out of it, bro, I'm thankful and I'm blessed.
Bro, that's confirmation. What I would say offline, but I'll just say it here. That's really the goal here. I'm not doing this for, to be on some network show. I'm not trying to be the biggest person out here. I legit love stories. I love who people are. I don't want to tap into who they are and what makes them do the things they do, what brought them there, all along while finding some common ground. And that's what More Insight is all about, man. I'm not trying to be Club Shay Shay. I'm not trying to be Shay Shay Media. I'm not trying to be Stephen A. Smith. I just want to get the stories out, man.
You got to run your race, bro. That's it. Just focus on getting better. And as you get better, sometimes you're getting better in the dark. You get better in the dark, then you come out in that light, and you're like, dang, I didn't know he was that good. So I think we live in a world where we often want to compare ourselves to other people. And it's natural. It's human nature. Yeah. You're probably going to look at these views and you measure, like, this wasn't that great of a show. It only did this many views. I didn't, like, when I looked at your show to even come on this show, it's like, I'm looking at what you're paying. I didn't care about what that number looked like, because I felt like maybe God put you to get me on this show. Maybe I can help run them numbers up, or we can help each other. And that's the way you look at it, It's all good, bro.
Same, bro. Same. So I definitely appreciate you coming through. Thank you so much for the gems, the words, the encouragement that you've even given me. And I hope that we can do the same for you. Anything else you want to do? Actually, do you want to shout out anybody and also tell the people where they can find you and keep up with your journey?
No, man. So at the end of the day, man, just want to shout out all the followers of Christ and who are fighting daily for their dream. Like this show for you. Like, it's for the people who've been overlooked, overworked, overpromised, all these things, man. I just want to shout out those people, I give my flowers to my immediate circle every single day. So they don't need a platform for that. They know what it is. I want to shout out the people the dreamers, the ones that's working. Maybe can see a vision that nobody else can see. That's what I want to shout out. Hey, keep pushing. And hopefully my story is one that resonates with you, because 2-3 years ago, ain't nobody care about what I had to say.
Hey, well, we care about what you got to say, man. We care about what you got going on in the future. So we'll definitely make sure we connect again. I enjoyed this, man. I really legit appreciate what you brought today. we didn't know each other from a can of paint. We didn't know each other from Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
But God saw fit to bring us together. So we'll definitely make sure we connect again in the future, my man.
Nah, man, I appreciate you, man. One love.